Jai Vishnu Paramahansa Paramahansa A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada ki ISKCON Svandracharya Srila Prabhupada ki Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki Shri Shri Radha London Ishwara ki Shri Shri Jagannath Baladev Subhadra Devi ki Shri Giri Govardhan ki Shri Shri Gornitai ki Sankirtan Yagya ki Go Premanande. All glories to their Sama devotees. All glories to their Sama devotees. All glories to their Sama devotees. All glories to Sri Guru and Sri Gauranga. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Hare Krishna devotees, how are you today? Are you okay, Haribol? You're okay. Have some nice japa? Yes, I thought it was pretty nice, actually. Right, so let us continue with our seminar on the demons in Krishna's Vrindavan Leela and the anathas they represent. And we are sort of in the middle of, well, the Damodar Leela, but then the particular part which deals with an anatha really is Nalakuvara and Manigriva being corrected by Narada Muni and ultimately by Lord Krishna. So there's a couple more things about the Damodar Leela itself, and then we'll go on to the Nalakuvara and Manigriva. And just, Jai Krishna Prabhu. Now, is this in the way? No. It's all right. Is it in the way? Would you like looking at telephones and wires?
We can see you through the screen bar.
A downer. Because he could always move it to the side. But anyway, we have to be conscious of the devotees. Okay. Is that better or worse? Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Shrimati Bhaktivedanta Swaminiti Namane Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharane Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Dejatarane Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadha Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Vanchakapatarubhyas Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Paditanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. We offer our respects to all the devotees. And so last night, we were right in the later stages of the Damodar Leela itself, And Mother Yashoda had just succeeded in tying Krishna. Or Krishna had sort of, what would you say, not exactly succumbed, but he had given in, surrendered himself to the love of Mother Yashoda and allowed himself to be tied, because we have to consider that tying Krishna, well, it really means you are tying the absolute truth. And the absolute truth contains everything. So if you're tying Krishna, it means you are tying everything. Does that make sense? Because, it's not part of this whole thing about the demons, but I imagine you're all, or many of you, or probably all of you, are familiar with the pastime of Mother Yashoda looking in Krishna's mouth to see if he'd been eating dirt. Because Lord Balaram, boys will be boys, and sometimes they argue with each other and fight a bit. Boys tend to be like this. So they'd been having some competitive games together, and Lord Balaram was being beaten, and he just didn't like it. He transcendentally didn't like it. Means, don't stress about it. It's all transcendental, but at least according to appearances, and it's true. He was not happy, so he wanted to get back at Krishna a little. So he went and told Mother Yashoda that Krishna's been eating dirt. And Mother Yashoda, we mentioned last night that her mood of motherly concern for Krishna, how is Krishna? Is Krishna all right? Her mood of motherly concern is so extremely strong that it was, who was it? Srila Raghunath Das Goswami says, she will give her life millions of times if there is just one little spot of perspiration on his forehead. We cannot really grasp, we certainly can't grasp clearly what it really means, what the implications really are. But at least we can get an idea that, sure, this is a degree of love and affection, which is superhuman. It's way, way superhuman. So anyway, there, Mother Yashoda, having been told that by Balaram, she looked in Krishna's mouth to see, because Balaram said, he's been eating dirt. Ah, look at him, he's been eating dirt. So of course she had to look in Krishna's mouth. And so she looked in, and what did she see? She didn't exactly see dirt, she saw the whole universe. Yeah, different planets floating around in his mouth in real time. And she saw herself and some cows, and she saw Krishna within Krishna's mouth. How's that? That's pretty transcendental. Yeah. So Mother Yashoda was aware that Krishna is everything, or not, you can put it like that, but really everything is within Krishna. And, just to complete that little story, she looked in Krishna's mouth and she saw that. And suddenly her mood of motherly concern and motherly affection just got overpowered by a mood, like a realization that, I've heard so many people say Krishna's God. And when they say that, I think they're stupid. He's my son. He's my son. That's what he is. So what is this Krishna's God business? It's just, something's wrong with these people. But then now she realized, oh, those people are right. He is God, and everything is within him. So her motherly mood disappeared, and a mood of extreme respect and awe and reverence for God arose in her heart. And, actually that is not good. It is not good, because the mood of motherly concern is a higher level of Krishna consciousness than one of great respect for the fact that Krishna is God. But anyway, she felt like that, and even she felt regret that, I have wagged my finger at this boy and told him he's a naughty boy and he must not do certain things. How disrespectful I was. It's terrible. And I told him, go get your father's shoes and take them to him. I ordered him around. What was I thinking? So regret was there in that mood of respect. But then gradually, so she's looking in his mouth. But then she started just looking elsewhere, a little bit, like around his face. And she noticed his very sweet little eyes. And when she looked, Hare Krishna, when she looked in his eyes, his beautiful, most extremely beautiful little baby's eyes, sort of smiling mildly at her, gradually her motherly mood arose again. Yeah, that her normal mood, motherly mood, arose again. And she went into a sort of mixed mood of a certain amount of motherly concern, motherly love, and there's still remaining a certain amount of respect and awe and reverence. So she started thinking that, Haribol, it's okay. She started thinking that, he's God, but he's my son. And she thought, what a fortunate woman I am. How many women have God for their son? Oh, this is really good. And then gradually she forgot about him being God and just got absorbed in her motherly mood again. So, but as it worked out, Balaram was not satisfied, and he insisted that, listen, I am the older brother and I am telling you he ate dirt. So you have to accept what I say. So there was a trial, there was a court case, and Balaram was the prosecuting attorney, and Mother Yashoda was the judge, and Krishna had to defend himself. And the outcome was Krishna was found guilty of eating dirt. Because otherwise, what's the universe doing in his mouth? It's a lot of dirt. So, yeah, anyway, that's what happened there. But now, Mother Yashoda has tied Krishna. Or Krishna, not exactly, like that. But really speaking, Krishna has not exactly allowed himself to be tied, but he has not been able to stop himself being tied by Mother Yashoda. Even though actually the same Krishna, he is the same Krishna that Mother Yashoda looked in the mouth of, means the universe is still inside Krishna. And Krishna's still inside Krishna. And she's still inside Krishna. But outside at the same time. You know, if you get the idea, simple idea, right? Yeah. Achintya Bheda Bhed Tattva. So to actually, if you want to get enough rope, how much rope would you have to get to put it around everything? Like the whole universe, the whole material creation, and the whole spiritual realm. How much rope would you need? There is not so much rope existing. So really, the point here is, it's such an important point, that because of Mother Yashoda's love and affection, not just Krishna agreed like, oh, all right then, oh, you can tie me, I'll allow the rope to be enough. Not like that. But Krishna, because of her love, couldn't stop himself being tied. And that's really, you know, in terms of at least that part of the whole Damodar Leela, that's the main point. And another very interesting point is, for example, coming up in a few weeks, what is it? Anyway, it's in a few weeks, is Krishna Janmashtami. Well, anyway, whenever it is, it's soon. And we of course, we celebrate Krishna Janmashtami. It's a whole big event, right through till midnight and after midnight. I remember in the good old days in Berry Place, we wouldn't take rest after the midnight arti, after having some prasadam. We just stay up and then just go through Prabhupada's Vyasa Puja day and just sort of crash in the late afternoon on that day. Shri Shri Radha Nandanishwara Shri Jagannath Baladev Subhadra Devi Shri Giri Govardhan Shri Shri Gaunitai Ki Jai. So, right, so it's coming up. And we celebrate it for a day, and it's nice. And then Prabhupada's Vyasa Puja day is there. Then not long after is Radhastami, and then Govardhan Puja. And, well, Lord Balaram's appearance day is the next one, I think. And we celebrate all these events for one day, and it's great. It's just wonderful. It really is. But this Damodar Leela, devotees and friends, we observe for a month. How's that? It must mean something. You know, everything means something. So this means something. And because this Damodar Leela, it particularly illustrates and exemplifies this most foundational and essential point in Krishna consciousness, which is that following in the footsteps of great devotees, and in this case particularly Mother Yashoda, we must develop love for Krishna. We must, that's what life, the life of a devotee is all about, and that's what everybody's life is meant to be all about. Unfortunately, a lot of people didn't get it yet, but at least the devotees, they all understand that. And every day we offer lamps to Damodar for a whole month. And we celebrate, like in some places last year in Johannesburg for the whole month, we focused on the Damodar Leela every day, just, different aspects of the pastime, and for a whole month. It was really nice. So, anyway, it's there. I'm not saying it's necessarily more important than Janmastami or Radhastami, but, there's something in the fact that we celebrate it for a month. The lesson is just so important. Yeah, and we ended up yesterday, if you remember, the 2 fingers point. You remember the 2 fingers point, the rope was 2 fingers too short to get around a little 3-year-old boy whose waist is this size. Even when they had like a kilometer of rope, couldn't get it around. And they never thought, wait a minute, this is crazy. We got so much rope, it's totally impossible that this can be happening. They never thought that. Under the influence of Yoga Maya, Yashoda and her friends, they just thought, too short, get more rope. But it's actually Sridhar Swami, one of our great acharyas and commentators from before Lord Chaitanya. He brings up this point about the 2 fingers, that the rope was too short, like repeatedly. And we explained, but I'll just mention it again. The first finger, this one, stands for the effort of the devotee. Mother Yashoda's effort, our effort. It's got to be there. It's got to be there. It's not like in the beginning of Bhagavad Gita when Arjuna is all disturbed and upset and he concludes, I'm not going to fight. And he just sits down in the back of the chariot and sulks, basically, and tells Krishna, you want this battle fought? Do it yourself. Get back to me when it's finished. So, not like that. He gave up, apparently. It's the Leela. But, he gave up, basically. But Mother Yashoda, she never gave up. She never thought that, this is ridiculous. We can't do this. I'm going to have to do something else to discipline this boy. She persevered. So the first finger represents the perseverance of the devotee. And the second finger represents the mercy of the Lord in response to the perseverance, the sincerity, and ultimately the love of the devotee, at least in the cases of the advanced devotees. So you got the 2 fingers. But as we mentioned last night, look, I know with my fingers it's quite pronounced. Have a look at your 2 fingers and see. This is your finger, your effort finger. And the middle finger, the middle finger is the Krishna's mercy finger. You see which one is bigger? Oh, it's the Krishna's mercy finger. It means you got to make your best effort, nothing less than your best effort. But still, ultimately, Krishna's mercy is the main factor and the deciding factor. So that's where we ended off yesterday. And that's a lesson directly from, it's sort of addressing an anartha, you could say, the potential anartha of giving up. I remember when I was a new devotee, I'm still a new devotee, only 50 years, but before I was I was an even newer devotee, and we were out on Oxford Street, and I was the one distributing the magazines, but the party got ahead of me, and so I was just stuck there. And I'm trying to distribute magazines, and somehow or other couldn't really get into it. No one took a magazine for about half an hour. And I was at the point, confession, I was practically crying, actually. I mean, I really shook. I just really felt it. And I was just wondering, what should I do? Should I just go back to the temple, or what should I do? And then, a moment later, I heard coming in the distance the sound of the Harinam party. So Krishna sent them to save me from, distress. Yeah, so Krishna's there. Krishna's a reality. He's not just a principle or, something like that. And he's a reality in our lives. And Srila Prabhupada made the point. Srila Prabhupada told Bhakti Charu Maharaj, who told me that one time he was with Srila Prabhupada, and Srila Prabhupada raised a question, like a rhetorical question. It's not exactly a question, but it's expressed as a question. What is Krishna consciousness? Question. Then Prabhupada answered the question. Prabhupada said, Krishna consciousness means developing a personal relationship with Krishna, disguised as a process. And if you think about it, you'll see it's very interesting. Actually, what we're doing is we're trying to develop or reawaken our forgotten relationship with Krishna. That's what we're really trying to do. But it's disguised as a process. That, you must do this, you must not do that, and you must do something else, and so on. And even Prabhupada, of course, did occasionally refer to it as a process. But anyway, this is I found it to be a very nice insight, a very nice perspective on what is Krishna consciousness, particularly for new devotees like us. What made me think I'm a new devotee was once I was in Italy, in Milan, and the devotees took me to a monastery, Catholic monastery, where they knew the monks a bit. And so, at the time I'd been a devotee, I was really quite a new devotee. I'd only been a devotee about 40 years. And we went in, and there's this one pleasant monk, and he showed us around. And I asked him, how long have you been living in the monastery? And he said, 62 years. And I realized I'm a new devotee. Only 40 years at that time. Now it's just slightly over 50. So we're all new devotees. It's a good way of seeing yourself. No, don't start thinking you're a senior devotee. I tell you what, that's just foolishness. So anyway, just to conclude this part of the Damodar Leela part of this whole pastime, which culminates with Nalakuvara and Manigriva, I want to just paraphrase a bit. Some of you may well be familiar, I wouldn't imagine you're all familiar, with the description of the Damodar Leela given by Srila Jiva Goswami and Gopal Champu. Are you familiar with that? Are you familiar with that? Harinam Ananda Ji. Are you familiar with that? Gopal Champu's description? Okay. Anyway, whether you are or not, I'll tell you. So Mother Yashoda tied up Krishna. Krishna's been tied up for a while now. And he's not happy, as you can imagine, being tied up. Who would be happy being tied up? And then who comes but Nanda Maharaj, and finds there's Krishna. And Nanda Maharaj says to Krishna that, why are you tied up? And Krishna says, Mata tied me up. You get the mood. Mata tied me up. And Nanda Maharaj said, oh, you must have been a bad boy then. Were you a bad boy? No. Why did she tie you up then? I don't know. So Mother Yashoda comes and she's devastated. It means the whole thing, having to deal with this and having to tie up Krishna. It's not like she's happy. I tied up Krishna. Great. No, she's really feeling, I had to tie up Krishna. I just had to do it for his sake. But she's not happy about it. So some servant comes to Nanda Maharaj and says, King, Yashoda has not eaten all day. She is not speaking to anyone. And we're all following in her footsteps. So Nanda Maharaj says, sadly, after showing anger, one should regret one's own fault. Yeah. And they say, we cannot tell her that. She's very soft internally and externally. She'll be devastated if she hears your words. And then Yashoda's sort of just in the background, like through the door there, you can see Yashoda's there. Oh, Radharaman's really Krishna conscious. He looked through the door to see Mother Yashoda's there. But she's sort of hanging out in the background. And Nanda Maharaj sees her and slightly smiling, because he understands, these are the leelas between mother and child. They're very sweet, very deep, and ultimately they're just really relishable. So Nanda Maharaj, seeing Mother Yashoda, says, will you go to your mother? And Krishna says, no, I'm going to stay with you. And Nanda Maharaj says, but I have to go out herding the cows. And Krishna says, I will come with you. And Nanda Maharaj says, but who are you going to play with? And Krishna says, I will play with you. And Nanda Maharaj says, but whose milk are you going to drink? Because he should drink his mother's milk. And Krishna says, I will milk a cow and drink the milk of a cow. He's uptight. He got tied up. I will drink fresh milk from the cows mixed with sugar. Who will you play with? I'll play with you. And I'll bring my brother also. Well, Nanda Maharaj says, will you not go to your brother's mother? Means Rohini. Why don't you go to her? And angrily, with tears in his eyes, Krishna says, I asked her to untie me. She left me and went away. So in other words, I'm not going to her. She's no good. And Rohini, with tears in her eyes, says, oh, son, why are you so harsh? Your mother is suffering. And Krishna, apparently unaffected, keeps looking at Nanda Maharaj. But Balaram came to Krishna and held Krishna's hand. Krishna rejected his hand and sat on the lap of his father and put his arms around his father's neck and bringing Nanda Maharaj under his control. Then Nanda Maharaj thought of a strategy. It's a really heavy strategy. It's good you're all sitting down, fasten your seatbelts. Nanda Maharaj lifts his hand and says, oh son, if you agree, I will beat her. Yeah, that's really heavy. Like, I'll bash her. And then Krishna couldn't tolerate it. He grabbed Nanda Maharaj's hand and said, no, don't do that. And then gradually his love for his mother, which was hiding there, it came out. And then Mother Yashoda came in, and Krishna, Nanda Maharaj said, no, you see your mother, the condition she's in. What will you do? She's going to die. She's going to die. And Krishna, he still hasn't seen she's come in. Krishna says, where's mother? Where's mother? I must go there. So everyone's laughing now because they all know these are the interactions that happen between the two of them. So then Krishna, crying and crying, runs over to his mother, hugs his mother around the neck, crying in joy. She kissed Krishna's head and made sounds like a cow. With a melted heart she sobbed, making all the others there sob. So, anyway, Hare Krishna, Hare Bol, Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. All right, so, no, we definitely haven't ended yet. So now the Nalakuvara and Manigriva part of this whole event, wow, because this is not a small pastime. It's a big pastime. I'm sure you know this. Nanda Maharaj Narada Muni was visiting, or he was going to visit Kuvera. Kuvera, Prabhupada calls him the treasurer of the demigods. He's like the bank manager. He's something like that. Yeah, like Barclays Bank. Do they still have Barclays Bank? It didn't go bankrupt yet. Not yet. Okay. So yeah, he's like that. He manages the money for the demigods. Yeah. Because they have so much money. And they can't, I think I mentioned yesterday Scrooge McDuck. You're familiar with Scrooge? Are you familiar with Scrooge McDuck?
Yes.
You are? Are you? You are? Are you Scrooge McDuck? No? You didn't miss much, actually. Anyway, he's Donald Duck's uncle, I think, or something, or grandfather. And he's very rich. And he keeps all his money at home in a room. And this room is full of money, like this deep. And occasionally goes in and he swims in the money. So they don't do that. They leave the excess money with Kuvera. And he's got a system for looking after it. So anyway, Narada Muni's going in. It's like one of these classic, if you've been to any of these classical old mansions, that, there's many of them in England. And they have long driveways, and, sort of strategically set up so you see the house in the distance, and you go behind the trees, and then you see the house again. They're all sort of cleverly done like that, an attempt at the heavenly planets. So he was going up the long driveway, and there are lakes here and there on the way. And at one of those lakes, were Nalakuvara and Manigriva, and some girlfriends. And they were all completely undressed and just sort of frolicking, or whatever you'd say, together in the lake and out of the lake, and running around and splashing each other and laughing and all that sort of thing. And Narada Muni came by and saw this. And the young ladies, at least they at least had the decency. I mean, they didn't have a lot of decency, really, but at least they had enough decency that, oops, here is a saintly person. They quickly just ducked away and covered themselves. But Nalakuvara and Manigriva, they also saw Narada Muni, and they know who is Narada Muni, but they didn't. They just carried on drinking and just laughing and joking in front of Narada Muni. And so Narada Muni could see these boys have become corrupted. They've become corrupted by their high position in society. They think they are unpunishable. They don't have to adhere to any rules. They're just above the rules. And so that's one thing, because of being the sons of Kuvera. And Kuvera is this extremely prominent demigod. And and the fact that they're extremely, fantastically wealthy. They make whoever is the richest person today look like a homeless person, a pauper. They really do. The level of their wealth is just, we cannot understand or appreciate. So they've become corrupted by those two things. And so they had like a massive don't care attitude. So Narada Muni, seeing this, he thought, they're good boys. I mean, they were good boys. They're from a good family. Kuvera is a very great person. But they've become degraded and corrupted like this. It's just completely wrong and totally inappropriate for people like this. I mean, for people like any people, really, but particularly people like this, it's just so inappropriate. I have to do something to help them. So it's the same principle as Mother Yashoda with Krishna. I've got to help him, discipline him to help him. not as an expression of my anger, something like that, being neglected. So what am I going to do? How am I going to train them? How am I going to teach them a lesson? And he thought, pretty radical approach, I'll curse them. Not just curse them, I'll curse them to become trees. They're enjoying being naked and sort of showing themselves off. They can stand there for some hundreds of years and show themselves off 24/7. That's what they're into. And in this way, they'll learn. And you might think, a tree learning? Anyway, there are things we have to learn about trees, actually. They are more, they're living entities, actually, like us, but their consciousness is not as apparent. You see it sometimes in South Africa, you see, they have a lot of sunflowers, big sunflowers, the flowers like this big. And from the morning to the evening, as the sun is going sort of across and around, you see the sunflowers are turning. They're turning. Yeah, they're following the sun. And Prabhupada talking about that. In the 4th canto I saw just recently, Prabhupada says that some trees, they're growing up and they meet an obstacle. There's something there. And the tree, in many cases, goes around the object, doesn't just sort of grow into it and stop, but in many cases they grow around and continue up. Anyway, okay, so he cursed them to become trees. Very kindly, actually, so they would learn that this is just not the way to do things. So he thought, these people have been corrupted. They need to learn. There's some things they need to learn. He made one very interesting point in regard to doing, it's not exactly Krishna consciousness as such, but in regard to austerity, the benefits that can be there in certain respects of performing austerities, that if a person is so poor that they cannot eat, they go for a day or a few days and they literally cannot actually eat any. There's not even any grass that they could eat. I don't think you see many of these people here. In other parts of the world, you find people like this. And there's no shelter at all, nothing. When it rains, they're just in the rain. And when it's hot, they're just in the heat. So, when a person is forced by circumstances, you could say, to live a life of extreme austerity, involuntarily, Narada Muni says they get the same benefit as someone who voluntarily accepts some program of austerity. What do you think of that? That's interesting, isn't it? Yeah. Because some people do like that. Some program of extreme self-denial. Now you see at the Kumbh Mela sometimes, someone who has taken a vow taken a vow to always remain standing up 24/7 for some years. Haribol, what do you think of that? So how do they sleep? they sleep standing up. Either they lean against something and sleep, or some of them, they have like a swing, like a child's swing, and they just lean over the swing. You get the idea? And some of them I've seen pictures at least, some of them they take a vow as an austerity. I will clench my fist and never open it. And in some cases, I will hold my hand up and clench my fist. But you know what happens is, because of the problems of blood circulation when you do that, the whole arm becomes withered. No longer like a normal arm, but it's like just skin and bone, literally. And, brace yourselves, are you ready? I hope you're sitting securely. The fingernails, what happens with the fingernails? They grow through the hand and come out the other side. Oh, yeah. It's actually a fact. I've seen photographs. There's a book, actually, which has photos of these extremists. So, anyway, Haribol. But you know what Prabhupada said? Prabhupada said one thing, and this was drummed into our heads when we were in Berry Place doing Sankirtan every day. One day on the street doing book distribution is equal to 10,000 years of those types of austerities. So let's go for that, okay? Not worry about these things. Yeah. I mean, there's some other good ones, but I will not distress you by telling you about them. So, yeah, Narada Muni says like that. A person who is just involuntarily, they're just forced into a situation of extreme austerity. They get the same benefit as someone who voluntarily adopts austerity in order to accumulate, I mean, generally it's some sort of pious credits which help with impersonal realization, not with like getting wealth or being elevated to a higher position in your next birth, but they help with pious credits towards getting impersonal realization. Right, Haribol. And then Narada Muni, it's very interesting, and listen to this. He says, actually, just using your body for whatever you like, chasing the opposite sex, that's pretty high up the popularity pole, or taking intoxication, or whatever. These types of things people get into, and they feel that they have an intrinsic right to utilize the body for those things. Like it's indisputable, it's just natural, of course. It's my body, I can do what I like with it. But Narada Muni, he's thinking to himself, and he thinks that, if anyone thinks that their body, their quote-unquote body, is actually their, not quote-unquote, but actually their body to do with this they like, they are fools. They're not just fools, but they're corrupt fools. Because it is extremely obvious, if you're a little conscious and just, got a little bit of insight into life and what's going on in your life, then you'll see that when you're a child, your body is your parents. It belongs to your parents. What does a little child do with their body? nothing much. And then when they're school age, then the body belongs to the teachers, because that's basically what goes on. They go to school and they learn and learn and learn. So their bodies belong to the teachers. And then when they finish their education, generally they get married, get into a family situation. Then the body belongs to the family, because they have to work hard. I don't know how many of you work, but you work, don't you? Do you work hard? Not really. You're smart. Anyway, yeah, but I mean, so many people work hard. I know that because so many, I haven't worked for more than 50 years, but I know many devotees. Well, there's one right there. He works in Johannesburg. Do you work hard?
Yes.
You work pretty hard, managing people's money. Yeah, so they work hard. And I know because I go and visit these people in their homes regularly in the evenings, and they're all half knocked out, because they've been working too hard. So it means now your body belongs to your family, or it belongs to your boss, or both. And what do you do with your body, which is like you just do it for yourself? Maybe on the weekend, but many jobs you have to work Saturday also. Then, okay, so now you go through your life, and now you have the golden years when you retire. And, if you're silly enough to think that when you're retired, it's your golden years, like the best years of your life, because, well, here's an interesting little saying I picked up recently, because I am an old man, and many of my friends are old men now too. And so someone told me a little saying. It's a really good one. Old age is not for sissies. Any of you, you're a bit old. You get the idea. What's your age?
Me.
Yeah.
66.
A little old. I'm older than you. But yeah, I tell you what, it's not easy. It's really not easy at all. So basically, it just means you can't work any longer, so they just sort of dump you. So you can just finish your life off on your pension. So maybe those last however many years, they're yours to do with as you like. But you're too old to do much. So therefore, Narada Muni says, anyone who thinks that this body is mine, and it is for me to do what I like with it, he says they're fools, but they're not just fools. He says they're rascals. Rascals, which may not sound like a very negative term, because in the Indian tradition, but in the Western tradition, the term rascal is normally used on children. But in the Indian use of English, anyone who's like a real nonsense, really a real no good, they call him a rascal. So he must be a rascal, not just a fool, but a rascal, because it's so obvious. You must see it. If you can't see it, you're a fool. So, but if you see it and you don't address it, it means you're a rascal. You're just up to no good. What do you think of that? Anyway, that's interesting. So, yeah. So this is what Narada Muni was thinking before he cursed them, that these boys, they have to be taught something, they have to learn some lessons, some things which are going to actually help them. So he cursed them. That you'll stand as trees for a long time, but then when Krishna appears after a while on this planet, then he'll deliver you. So you know the story. Krishna came and he delivered them. They took birth as, it's a special type of tree. It's called an Arjuna tree. You don't get them in England. I never saw an Arjuna tree. They're like tropical trees. You get them in India a bit. One place where you get a lot of Arjuna trees is Mauritius. Well, we've got a few Mauritians here. You might know what an Arjuna tree is. They have big root systems. They extend out and then down and way down. And they were introduced into Mauritius because in Mauritius they have cyclones almost every year. It's just like not exactly hurricanes, but pretty close. And they blow all the trees down. And, like all the mango trees, lychee trees, a lot of them get blown down by the cyclones. So they brought Arjuna trees from India to use as windbreaks. Yeah. Because the cyclones can come and they can't blow down Arjuna trees because the root system's too strong. So, yeah. So the Arjuna trees, they can withstand the cyclones, and whatever's inside them being protected doesn't get damaged. And there you go. Success in life in Mauritius. So, but now, Krishna, our hero, Haribol, Krishna, he knocked down 2 of them. Just consider, a hurricane cannot knock down 1 Arjuna tree. Krishna, our Krishna, knocked down 2. Just see, Krishna is really powerful. Haribol. Yeah. So anyway, they learnt their lesson, having to stand there. And when it's a nice day, the weather's good and so on, maybe it's fun to go running around in the sun like that. But when the weather's not good, then it's not much fun. And when it's really cold, yeah. You see some of these people doing austerities. They live in the Himalayas with nothing, literally nothing, in the snow. Haribol. And they live in the snow. Here, of course, you don't get cold weather here. Not really cold. But up in the Himalayas, minus 40, 50. That's cold. That's really cold. So there's a couple of verses. Here's a really good verse in regards to learning this type of lesson for a devotee. For a devotee. This is the Bhagavatam 1.8.26. Some of you might know it. 1.8.26. Janmaishvarya Shritashibir Edamana Madapamam Naivarhat Yabidatum Vai Twam Akinchana Gocharam. It's Queen Kunti addressing Krishna as he left Hastinapur for Dwaraka. My Lord, your lordship can easily be approached, but only by those who are materially exhausted. One who is on the path of material progress, trying to improve himself or herself with respectable parentage, great opulence, high education, and bodily beauty, cannot approach you with sincere feeling. The point is the feeling, genuine feeling, like, I need your shelter. I need protection. If you don't protect me, I don't know how I can manage. That type of sincere feeling. And then there's another verse, it's 2:1-4. 2:1-4. Dehapatya kalatradisho atmasanyeshvasatsvapi tesham pramato nidhanam pashyanapi na pashyati. Persons devoid of atma tattva, means knowledge of the soul, do not inquire into the problems of life, being too attached to the fallible soldiers, like the body, children, and wife. Although sufficiently experienced, they still do not see their inevitable distraction. So the idea here is that someone who doesn't have spiritual knowledge, they, of course they're confronted with different problems in life. That's just, that's just life for everyone. Even King Charles himself, he faces problems, I'm sure. And he's already been through a divorce. Holy ball. So people are facing problems in their lives of all sorts, but they sort of retain a mood of optimism that, let's keep plugging on. Let's carry on. I just got divorced. My wife ran off with my best friend, just lost my job. They're going to repossess my house if I don't get it together, but we'll push on. The eternal optimist. So people, the verse is saying, people who don't have spiritual knowledge, they don't try to go deeper into these problems. They're just very much on the surface. They think, I'll solve it in this way or that. And they're very attached to, it's described as fallible soldiers, body, children, wife, bank balance, motor car, friends, relatives, etc. They feel sheltered by these things, that these things will get me through. Difficulties will arise, but in the company, or with my body, and with my children, and my wife, and everyone, and everything else, I'll get through. Everything will be fine. But it's not fine, because these things are fallible soldiers. Like, you've heard of the Yamadutas. We've all heard of the Yamadutas, the agents of the Lord of Death. If you're a materialist, they come to get you. And these are not pleasant people. These are these are monsters. The zombies in the zombie movies. I hope you don't watch them. Or, like in my youth, there was one called, I think it was like, a good 50 years ago, more, 60 years ago. The Monster from the Purple Swamp. Don't bother watching it if you get the chance. It's not worth it. But the Yamadutas, they actually are monsters, like the real thing. Yeah, really, wow, just too heavy. And this is why some people, when they actually die, they pass stool and urine as they're actually dying, because they see these people and they've never seen anyone vaguely like them, and they're just like beyond being out of a horror movie, but they're actually real too. Yeah. One of our devotees in South Africa was distributing books during the Christmas marathon in a shopping mall, and one, what do they call him, heavy metal young man came. I don't know if they still had heavy metal people here. You know, long, greasy hair, all black. And he had a crucifix, a cross, upside down. I understand it means he's a Satanist. Anyway, he was like the real thing, as those types of people go. So she stopped him and gave him a book. And he looked at it and he said, yeah, well, haven't you got something heavier? So she had this book, you know, this book coming back, I think, or Dharma. It was either Dharma or Coming Back, which has a double-page picture of someone being dragged out of their body by the Yamadutas, who really look ghastly. And this young man, he looked at that picture, he said, wow, that's cool. And he bought the book. Seriously, it's a true story. Yeah. So these people, they think they'll be protected. You know, here come the Yamadutas, what will I do? Well, you know the story of Ajamil. He called for his son, who happened to be 5. And what could his 5-year-old son do against a gang of Yamadutas? Like they're all like 10 feet tall and just, you know, bizarre in the total extreme. That's all he could think to do. And he thought, maybe that'll help me. My son will save me. But it was too late. Or someone, you know, they pull out their bank statement. Look, see, I got lots of money. You can't attack me. Pull out the Visa card. See, I'm okay. Don't attack me. Prabhupada actually, I remember once when we were on traveling Sankirtan, during breakfast, we would play a class of Prabhupads. And in one class, Prabhupada talks a little bit about Gandhi, Mahatma Gandhi. And Prabhupada says Gandhi was such a big man. He's such a big man. You know, millions and millions of people worshipped him and felt he was just the solution to all their problems. But then Prabhupada said, when his time came, time for him to die, Prabhupada said, death came and just threw him away. Death did not say, oh, you're Mahatma Gandhi. Oh, okay, I'll leave you. You can carry on. But when his time came, death came and just threw him away. And that was it. Sort of disdainfully just chucked him away. So, yeah. So, you know, we need to, in Krishna consciousness, like we mentioned, Prabhupada said, we're developing a relationship with Krishna. We're not just meant to be like workaholics. We must work hard. We should definitely not be lazy in Krishna's service. But it's not just, well, workaholism. Our serving, ultimately, as a devotee progresses, then the mood of appreciation for Krishna and the role he's playing in our lives must increase. And our feeling of appreciation, gratitude it will increase, if we're doing things nicely, and it'll gradually transform into affection and ultimately like really a very deep type of love. So ultimately feeling should be there in all our different efforts in Krishna consciousness. And to just conclude everything, I mean, there's so many things, obviously, that can be said. There's just so many things. But just to conclude, in terms of feeling, Srila Prabhupada, I don't know if any of you had personal association with Prabhupada or saw him personally or, at all. But Prabhupada, he was, an extremely elevated devotee, to put it mildly. And he, on occasion, sometimes, he would show great feeling, but not much, not often, at all. Generally, he was like super cool and, cool, calm, and collected. Yeah. Because he's spiritually realized. But he's beyond just being spiritually realized, he's God realized in his relationship with Krishna. But sometimes, normally, I'm sure you listen to his classes and you see he's not like one of these colorful presenters. You know what I mean? He's not like that. He presents the truth, tends to be in quite a matter-of-fact way, often. Yeah, I mean, definitely some emotion comes. But sometimes Prabhupada would become like, he wouldn't be able to stop the emotion, put it that way. Just like like Krishna couldn't stop Mother Yashoda tying him because of her love. So Prabhupada sometimes under certain circumstances, he would be talking about some aspect of Krishna consciousness, something particularly personal, and he would display emotion. So I'm going to attempt, I really don't know if I'll be successful. Maybe what I'll do, I'll try to use this microphone, if it's possible, and play this thing so you can hear it. Prabhupada speaking. He's speaking about the deity Madan Mohan and Sanatana Goswami. And Sanatana Goswami's relationship with Madan Mohan. And anyway, let's see if it works. Let's see if you're able to hear it. Let's see if I'm able to play it.
Krishna, just like Madan Mohan.
Can you hear?
He was talking with Sanatana Goswami. Madan Mohan, Sanatana Goswami at that time had no temple. He was hanging his deity on the tree. So Madan Mohan was talking with him, Sanatana, you are bringing all these dry chapatis and it is stale and you don't give me little salt. How can I eat? Sanatana Goswami says, "Sir, where shall I go? Whatever I get, I offer you. You kindly accept. I cannot move, old man." So Krishna had to eat that. Because the bhakta is offering, he cannot refuse. Jima bhaktya pradit. Real thing is bhakti. What you can offer to Krishna, everything belongs to Krishna. What you have got, what is your value? And what is the value of your things? It is nothing. Therefore, the real thing is bhaktya. Real thing is your feeling. Krishna, finally take it. I have no qualification. I am most rotten, fallen. But I applaud this thing for you. Please take. This will be accepted. Don't be puffed up. Always be careful. You are dealing with Krishna. That is my request. Thank you.
Srila Prabhupada ki. So there you go, devotees. Some food for thought. And that's the end of our seminar for the time being. Haribol. Yeah, so we'll continue next time. And there's plenty more, don't worry. All sorts of interesting things. Anyway, thank you for the association, service, and your nice devotional examples. It's great. I've been very happy here. And Haribol. Baad mein milenge means see you later. Hare Krishna.
Bhakti Chaitanya Maharaj ki.
I missed your Sankirtan lecture yesterday.
You what?
I missed your Sankirtan lecture.
Oh.
And the train stations sometimes have bookcases full of books. And I just opened it up and bookcase. So when I was on the train, my bike was on there. Everything